We're entering week 6 of the best ball and fantasy football seasons this year. You know what that means? It's time to review everything that's been going on so far. Try to look at the players that have hit. Of course, Jamar Chase being a guy that probably made advance rates storm upwardly in a major way. We're going to talk about the guys we expect to keep doing it moving forward, guys we expect to drop off, and where everything sits as of week 5, entering week 6. Let's talk about it, of course. Appreciate all the kind words yesterday. Did end up having to put down my 20-year-old cat a mere 10 days after having to put down my 14-year-old dog. So you can imagine, I'm feeling great right now, but I'm doing the best I can to push through it to whatever. And one thing I will say for you guys out there, adopt a pet, please. If you adopt a pet on my behalf, send me photos of it. Let me know. But just do it. Just do it, please, for the love of animals. Anyway, I could be emotional all day. I've been up was up until 3 a.m. last night, just kind of stewing it all. But let's talk about the football part of things. My mental breakdowns aside, we got Lamar Jackson as your top point scorer so far. We have to do a soliloquy, right? It can't just be about me only talking about animals dying. Soliloquy up top in week 6. I guess the main thing here, starting to see some of the stuff, the early season biases, the things people thought were going to be locks about what's going to happen this year, start to see those slowly start to come away. Your Rashee Rice's, I know, a bit of a bummer, but him missing the entire year, that's something where people who had him, I'm sure, felt like they had a lottery ticket, especially if they took him in the 80s, the 90s, even the 100s where he went at points when people were worried about a suspension the most. Now that goes away. Some of the early season performances going away. Guys like Tank Bigsby coming on already in 1 month in. Your Chase Browns as well. Like those guys kind of moving things around. Jordan Mason, a guy who's probably advancing a lot of stuff, he busts as one of the biggest chalk plays of the week. So I think it's one of those times right now where you're starting to see that longer term sample size start to make sense. You're maybe seeing teams start to find their depth a little bit more. The Bengals, a team that I've been worried about since the beginning of best ball drafting, to see them come on that hard against the Ravens, pause, I'm sure, to see them do what they did against the Ravens overall in that spot, still lose the game. I think they kind of hit both sides of what I thought they were, which spike week team potentially, but still a team that's like, it's a little bit fucked up. It's a little bit not all the way there. But we'll see how that holds up the rest of the year. Jamar Chase, he put up his big game on tape. Sit the rest of the year, Jamar, and just go see if you get the next contract. Now he's probably earned himself more money with that game. That's where we are in week 6 or heading into week 6. But let's get into the top players, of course, my exposures, my advance rates, all of that. We'll get into it as we always do here. Lamar, number 1, feels kind of like a soft number 1 to me. Lamar obviously playing well. One thing we talked about early in best ball season, seeing the Lamar and Mark Andrews teams over and over again on streamers out there, streamers drafts, was something I thought was an error. I thought it was an error just because of the fact that, like, again, the assumption that Mark Andrews is going to be good every year. I tell you what, guys, I made this exact point on stream a lot of times all year. Didn't realize quite how prescient it was going to be as Charlie Kolar takes Mark Andrews snaps away this week, or really, production away this week. For Lamar, though, he's living up to his half of the agreement. I think playing looser than ever. Lots of big throws, lots of extending plays to create big plays downfield. Feels like there could still be some days where things go amiss for him, maybe where he throws some picks. But his low game of the year right now, 17.4 points, half-point PPR, not that it matters for QBs. He's doing what he got to do as elite QB. So like Jalen Hurts not paying off, Josh Allen not really paying off, Lamar the one guy in that range who is paying off. And I had him ranked next to, Hurts and Allen, so I feel good about that part. But Lamar being this good, I mean, I'm not surprised by any stretch, but him being this consistent, I think a little bit more surprised by. Jets coach got fired. That's right. That is true. I'm not trying to laugh. Kyle, though, GM, hope you have a better day today. Yeah, they all have a better day than yesterday where I had to put down my 20-year-old cat. I think by a little bit there, she fucking, it's so sad. I don't know if you guys have ever seen, had a cat who like was in their final steps, but they like go and hide and like, they go and like will go into like a water body, like a water thing, and just like a body of water, and just like lay there. It's so fucking sad. And because Nilla's an indoor cat, she just like was hiding in corners of the house, like burrowing her head into the couch. It's really tough, man. But yeah, I think it's gonna be a better day. Yeah, if Luka fucking dies today, if we got to put down Luka, it's gonna be a tough scene. Jets coach fired. I guess we should talk about that too, real fast. Robert Saleh getting fired seems like trying to put a band-aid on a bullet hole, to quote Taylor Swift lyrics that I've been forced to listen to in this house entirely too many times. For that situation, though, like I don't think that's what fixes things. I don't think Saleh's the issue. If anything, I do expect Saleh not being there kind of hurts the defense a little bit. Defense should still be fine. A lot of talent overall there, but especially up front where they've already been soft, I think Saleh was scheming a little bit to get around the fact that they needed a Hassan Reddick type of player in there. Obviously, they don't have him in because he wanted a new contract. Maybe they get him in now with a new contract and, just kind of clean the slate a little bit with Ulrich. I don't even know who the fucking coach is that they have coming in. I have to look him up a little more and get my head wrapped around it. I also do think the Belichick Jets rumors, not the craziest thing in the world. Obviously, some acrimony there from when he burned them in the 90s. But at this point, you're this many years in the future. I don't think that's an insane thing either. Obviously, wouldn't expect it to happen in season, especially with the season kind of looking, I wouldn't say rudderless. I think they get back on track. But this situation really is one of those where I don't think it gets better for the Jets. I think it shows all the power Aaron Rodgers had. All the talk to the snakeness of Aaron Rodgers, where this past few weeks or past few days, talking about how hey, Rob and I are friends. Yeah, like, no big deal. Our miscommunications. That's just how buddies talk. He's gone. He's gone after Aaron Rodgers. Kind of throws him under the bus a little bit in some press conference quotes overall. So for Robert Saleh, look, I don't know. I don't think he deserved it. I think he'll get another job. I think he'll be a great coordinator somewhere. If not, land as a head coach. If there's a weak hiring cycle coming up, I think he'll be fine. I think this Jets team, though, like, again, another team I said from day one, I think they're living up to everything I thought they would be. And Aaron Rodgers being like this mercurial presence, probably good for Garrett Wilson's stock, probably good for him throwing another 25 targets in a game. But man, that team is a fucking mess. I appreciate that, Brian. Yeah, I know a lot of people have been through it, and I hate to dwell on it for that reason. It's just, I am a person that, quite frankly, I know it's like a bumper sticker a mom would have or would post on Facebook. Like, I do like pets more than people. I like animals more than people. They're my little best friends, and like for Nilla especially, I haven't had her since I was a junior in college. It's hard to lose that in your life, but obviously you appreciate that. And again, just fucking adopt some animals for me. Adopt all the animals. Be an animal hoarder, but like a good animal hoarder where they have like really sick lives. You waste all your money on them. They don't live in shit. Ideally, that's what you would do. Jayden Daniels, number 2. How do I count the ways for my boy Jayden Daniels? I didn't think it'd be this good in real life. I do think at this point, and it's crazy. Like, I made the case over the summer, CJ Stroud MVP potential. We see it sometimes in the big plays he had. Nico Collins plays 5 plays or runs 5 routes in that game, has crazy output in just that amount of time. That's what we're hoping for CJ Stroud. For Jayden Daniels, though, I feel like he's a more live MVP candidate right now than CJ Stroud is, because he's the one part of this offense that makes everything go. So for Jayden to be at this level where 11 for 82 rushing, sure. Throwing touchdowns, sure. Is he throwing enough touchdowns for me? Only 4 in 5 games? I'd say no. I think he has a higher ceiling than that. Again, in college, the equivalent of like 60 fantasy points. So I think there's more of a ceiling here. I think there's still a little bit of a governor on him, keeping him kind of tight in with how Kingsbury's running this offense. I can't complain about how Kingsbury's running this offense because they're crushing right now. They're 4-1. The offense is efficient. A lot of these swing passes, these kind of the horizontal rate offense people have made fun of for Cliff Kingsbury. It's working really fucking well with Jayden Daniels. He's getting the ball downfield the way where, the deep passes, people immediately, whenever he does anything in a game, I see the chat start lining up in the Squirt Squad VIP channel, of course, you get from joining down below for $4.99. Like, I see all that stuff, happening in real time, and it's crazy. And like, I'm still, worried that something gets hurt for him, something could go bad. But with how he's playing, I think there's another level he can still hit. Maybe some downside here. You get into games like that week 2 one where just a lot of field goals where I said it before on the premium streams. I think Washington to me is like a Milton Berle team. I think Bill Simmons made this analogy and it's stuck in my head, where the old joke was that old comedians would do like dick measuring contests, and Milton Berle, the biggest dick of them all, is the way that he's known. I don't think there's any photos of it online, but imagine the Boogie Nights dick. The dick we're talking about. And basically these dick measuring contests, Milton Berle, the joke is that he'd pull out just enough to win. That's like what the Commanders are. If they're in a situation where they don't have to press that offense, they won't. Thought they hit the gas pedal a little bit more. Terry McLaurin could have had another, I think it was a 30-yard touchdown that was in the basket. It was a little bit out of bounds. He just couldn't quite put it together. So maybe there's another ceiling they can hit, but it feels like they're not a team. Like, once they get to 30, if they're up 2 scores on you, they're kind of letting it ride a little bit more than I would have thought. Granted, that was against Cleveland. Deshaun looked shot. Deshaun was really, that's the first time I've watched a full Deshaun game, and I wasn't as bad as last year, but he just couldn't hit throws. Like, Amari Cooper's being fucking wasted. You can see the frustration mounting from the receivers too. Exact opposite for Jayden Daniels though. So really happy to see it. Obviously the best ball results, I think it's not there as much as you'd like to see because you have so many QBs in this range performing, similarly well. But that said, I think once we get some spike weeks going, if we can get some spike weeks going, I think it's where Jayden starts to make even more sense. But for right now, super reliable. You got him pick 100. You guys know the deal. I've been in the bag for him from day one. Probably the thing I got the most right overall. Rushing volume has been nice. That's true. Yeah, around 11 times last game. He's basically been about 10 a game. So for Jayden Daniels, he's rushing at a high level. You want to see more deep shots. You want to see more end zone rushing and throwing opportunities. A lot of run plays in the red zone for that team. But if there is a game script where it flows that way more, That's where Jayden does have a shot at getting you 40. And like legit, he did run for 200 yards and throw for 300, multiple touchdowns. Like he has a ceiling that nobody in the league might have. And I think people don't even know that yet. So you know that by watching the show, but don't be shocked if he puts up like a game of all games at some point this year. We're a month in and he's putting up steady good games. I think if he hits like that next level that he can hit, it's going to be potentially, as long as he's healthy, essentially we're talking 40-point games, 45-point games, not all the time, but like he can combine us together a little bit more. That one play he had this past week could have been a touchdown if he just pushed it a little bit more. If he starts to do that, like that's where the ceiling gets crazy. Baker Mayfield, speaking of ceilings being crazy, number 3 overall scorer right now. Again, a good production there. I feel like early on we talked about the Saints. Obviously, I've been in the bag for the Saints. Thought they could upset the Chiefs yesterday. Felt like they left some plays in the field to defend my bags there. Felt like they could have won that game if they played a little bit better and hit some of those deep shots that were just not accurate or just fucking stupid throws a couple times by Derek Carr. But that said, it seems like Tampa Bay is kind of what the Saints were pretending to be, or, you know, at least looking like they were the first few weeks. Not a team that's going to put up 40.5 on you, but a team that's still going to be reliable, going to drop back a lot, going to be efficient, maybe not take as many downfield shots they did last year with Dave Canales, but still doing well. And I think Baker's rounded into a very solid QB. I expect him to hold in the top 10 range. I feel like he and Geno Smith, two guys that feels like they're going to give you steady 15 to 25 point games. I think Baker Mayfield is where you drafted him. If you stacked him up with Godwin, stacked him up with Evans, stacked him up with Bucky even, I think you feel pretty good about it right now. All the B-Rob, JD stacks pretty hard. Yeah, that's one thing, too, that we had talked about during basketball season where I think the RB, QB combos make sense for certain teams, and that was one that I felt pretty good about it. I think there's a lot of upside there. Brian Robinson probably carrying a lot more of my teams, I'd like to admit. Alvin Kamara, down game for him this past week, but he's still at number 4, top overall scorer who's not a QB. For Kamara, look, I think if Carr doesn't start, it's not a good thing. Jake Haener, though, I would say is not going to make the team dead in the water. Was kind of impressed with what he did just coming on the field the back half of that game yesterday. In college, I think he was at Fresno, right? It's Fresno because Clayton Tune was Houston, I think. And I think Jake Haener was Fresno. He wasn't a bad player. He's one of those guys a year coming out, like who could be your next Brock Purdy? Jake Haener would be one of those guys that fit that criteria. So it's possible he'll be okay. Rattler would be a disaster, I think. So people out there go like, oh, Rattler's going to be so much better than Carr. I wouldn't root for that. I think that Haener can keep the offense afloat. I think him keeping the offense afloat in large part is going to be targeting Alvin Kamara, targeting Juwan Johnson. So I think Kamara can hang in there. A little bit of a downer to see him have such a weak game in a day where no Taysom Hill out there. Taysom with the ribs, I guess, will probably be out a couple weeks, maybe a month. For Kamara, I think that it was also surprising to see historically when Taysom's out, he doesn't actually get much better. Gets a little bit more in terms of targets, but the production isn't there more. Touchdowns aren't there more. It shocked me looking at the RotoViz Game Splits Explorer when I was looking at it before the game yesterday. But for Kamara overall, I think he's fine. I think the Saints just going the wrong way overall would be the concern. Derek Carr, an oblique injury. It's probably to keep him out. It seems like maybe for a lot of time. So never heard of an oblique injury being that bad, but it does seem like it might be that bad. Can't believe Olave dropped that dime he had in his pocket. He really did not have a good game yesterday, which is crazy. Like he's one of those guys, into the fantasy points guys, of course, where I'm doing a column every week for prop betting. They talk about his separation score and how he's killing it there. He's getting open, but like Shaheed is just a better player. And I know some people think there were some tweets going around out there like, oh, Shaheed doesn't do as well against man coverage versus zone or whatever. Might be the inverse. No, I think that was it. Basically, like they're like, oh, Shaheed might be a trap play today. And Shaheed goes off. His usage is better than Olave, which I talked about yesterday a little bit. More targets, more downfield for the targets that he's getting. Got a really good role. But I think for the Saints, look, I think it's a coin flip if Carr is out, whether they stay afloat or not. I still think the team's been kind of unlucky the last 3 weeks. I don't know if they're as good as the first 2 weeks looked. So for Kamara, I would say it's not over, but you're probably expecting more games than this 10 to 20 point range than another 43. This offense not looking like a world beater like it did that one game against Dallas. Kamara's a PPR scam, a little bit. Traded B-Rob and Singletary for Chase for week 3. Well, there you go. Traded some spike weeks. I still think over the course of a year, tough to lose B-Rob. A great goal line role for a team that seems like it's on pace to maybe make the playoffs. We got 95% of the money was on the Olave over. Insert Brian Windhorst meme. Oh, yeah, that's tough. The chalk not hitting. What a shocker. Derrick Henry at number 5. Reliable player, 2 spike weeks. Think the upside for him is sometimes capped in game scripts where you have to have Justice Hill out there for some of the deep plays where you're playing on 3rd and longs more. For Derrick Henry, though, when the Ravens are a front running team, they're going to be pretty good to go. So Henry, if I had to choose him or Kamara over the course of the rest of the year, probably would take Derrick Henry. I think the team just being better is going to lead to more production for him. That said, these guys to me kind of similar plays, both players that I think people maybe wrote off to varying extents, obviously at much different ADPs where Henry was still going top 3 rounds, Kamara going top 75 picks overall. But for these guys, I think they're both in enough of a good situation, dominating their backfield, should be good to go for them for the most part. Joe Burrow at number 6, big game for him. I've talked enough about Cincinnati. The 1 spike week game is enough to get him in the top 6. It kind of shows you where the scoring is overall. After a couple dud weeks by Burrow actually, really just 1 dud week. These 17-point games you could live with. Look, Burrow's got the big upside as long as everybody stays healthy there. That's good to go. For the Bengals, though, 1-4 now. I mean, I think you see some urgency coming on their end. And I think they, like the Ravens, who started slow as well, I think they can dig back into it a little bit more. But for Burrow, I don't know if I see that upside every week. Maybe they passed the moment in time here. The Ravens D has quietly been kind of soft this year, so I think that's a big part of it. I'd be more concerned by Burrow not getting there versus the Commanders than I would be encouraged by him getting there versus the Ravens. In that kind of game, I think it's a competitive situation, 2 teams that know each other pretty well, know they're going to have to put up points against each other. I don't know that you see this Burrow ceiling quite as much. I felt like that was a game plan that was more aggressive than the Bengals usually put out there, and I don't know that we get that very often. Geno Smith at number 7, high pass rate over expectation team. Initially looked maybe a little bit concerning with the Ryan Grubb offense, and now we're seeing him basically do what he did at Washington. For Geno, I guess the only concern is really Seattle, maybe a bit of a paper tiger team, but defensively they've been good. The offense is passing well. I like the players, I like the talent. So I think Geno hanging around here may be tough because you see your Josh Allens come up, your Kylers, your Jalen Hurtses, whoever. The lower guys that are going to be there are going to come up a little bit more. But I think Geno hanging around top 15 overall wouldn't be shocking. And again, just reliable. Lowest points, 13, 17.9, 18, got some 22s. And I think there's like a 30-point game for him too. Probably not a 40 for him, but a 30 could be there for Geno. So he's live. If you take him into the playoffs, he's healthy. Everything's looking good for Seattle. Wouldn't be mad about it. Jamar Chase at number 9, big spike week drives him up here. 2 games under 10 points to start off the year, maybe hitting his stride the last 3 weeks. For Jamar Chase, he rises more in these kind of competitive games. We saw him try to go harder in the Chiefs game. You saw him have success against the Commanders as well. That was really just obvious and a layup there. I think it's situations that are easy and very competitive games and teams that he really wants to show up. I think you see Jamar Chase coming a little bit more. I've actually feel like that C. Higgins usage is maybe a bit of a tough point for Chase, where Higgins is getting good enough red zone work. Higgins is getting, at least going into last week, getting a little bit more targets per game. I think it levels out. Obviously, Chase gets more, but Higgins is looking kind of like old Higgins, and I think that's overall not the best for Jamar Chase. But still, for him, he's got the big spike week here. Hard to critique him too much. If he rolled off a bunch of these in a row, I think I'd be surprised. But look, any sign of life here for the Bengals, I think feels good. Jamar Chase, he's a guy I'm low on, so for me, I have to suffer, and that's sort of what it is. But he goes off. He's a huge game, a lot of work. Shout out to chat. Appreciate you guys being here as well. Perhaps we get Nicholas Jamal Chubb returning to make football great again this week. I don't want that. I'm a Jerome Ford household. GM Spags, sorry about your cap, bro. I appreciate it, man. Just trying to push through here in the name of content, of course, because this is basically my job. So got to show up and do the work here, even when I am dying inside. Lost of our furry friend today. You guys have seen Nilla on stream. I wish I knew which stream that I'd had her on when she was in here meowing and I had her on my lap like some sort of Bond villain, but it's out there somewhere. All the animals in my life have been on stream at some point, so they exist forever in digital perpetuity. Josh Allen at number 9. So you are seeing really big downsides for Josh Allen. Under 10, under 15. Spike weeks are great, keeping him top 10. I don't think you want Josh Allen right now with how it's playing. I don't know that you want to have the risk of a guy going into week 17 giving you 10 points because the game script became a little more rushing friendly or they put up points early. So right now to the elite QBs, I think you feel a lot better about Lamar, his floor, his ceiling, than Josh Allen, his floor, his ceiling. Ceiling, same for both guys. The floor, though, is not quite there as much. So Buffalo playing well, a good thing, obviously, in the run game. Going to take some pressure off Josh Allen, but this team can win ugly. This team can win a bunch of ways. So it's basically it. Gritty was right. Triple elite QB was the way. A triple elite QB would not be paying off well, but I think his advance rates weren't bad from when at least I saw somebody posting on Twitter, but I don't know. It's also early, obviously, but yeah. The Lamar part doesn't feel bad. The Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts part, I would say, feels pretty bad right now. Kyler Murray coming in at number 10 here to round it out. Kyler, again, playing pretty well, ran the long TD, and then helps him this week. Feel like the downside's been pretty prominent here, but a good showing by Arizona. A bit of a dead cat bounce for them after getting stomped by the Commanders in a game that they probably should have been at least been competitive in. So for Kyler coming back to earth, I think, or coming back to what we expect him to do, certainly a positive to see with where you drafted him. Still like the downside, though. Again, 10 points against Commanders. We're talking about 2 games under 16 besides that. He's not quite the elite adjacent QB you want him to be. And again, relative to ADPs right now, you probably want Jayden Daniels because, again, Jayden hasn't really hit his passing ceiling yet. Kyler's had big pass games, or has receivers had big passing games. The one thing he hasn't had is like Harrison and McBride hitting the same week. That's probably where Kyler, if let's say he runs one big play, Harrison goes off, McBride goes off, that's where you see him have that Burrow game plus a little bit more on top. So I think Kyler's got a ceiling that I'd be happy to go into war with for week 17. But I think that the week-to-week performance is going to be a little more elusive than it should be. Saquon, number 11, Dak, number 12, Nico Collins, who hopefully won't be out too long, but now week to week with a hamstring injury, so not great for Nico. 14 is Justin Fields, so he's paying off largely because of the 132-point game. The rest of these games not doing a lot for you, but it's where he got drafted. I mean, look, you take him over Derek Carr, that's an L for me for sure. Justin Fields outperforming that. We'll see, though, if he holds off Russell Wilson. I think with how he played last week, with Pickens also going the wrong way, you might want to put Wilson in and then bring Fields back. And if Wilson can't get the offense humming with a little more production for everybody, right now it's just Fields producing and nobody else. And that's how Arthur Smith wants to win. That's not how you keep a team of kind of mercurial players together, which was kind of my concern with Pittsburgh and Pickens in particular. Kyron at number 15, Darnold, Stroud, Jefferson, Purdy, Cousins, that's your top 20. Let's go to the rest positions here. QB, we basically know already, so we go through fast. Lamar, Jayden, Baker, Burrow, Geno, Allen, Kyler, Dak, Fields, and Darnold are your top 10. I guess the biggest surprise here, if you had to rank them all, would be Darnold. But I think the opportunity was there for him from day one, basically, if J.J. McCarthy wasn't going to go. The issue was just that McCarthy was going to come in at some point. Now Darnold's getting the run out. I defended him, said that he would be a guy that I expect to be a competent starter. 5 points against the Jets is maybe the downside of that, but former team who knows him well through the system, and also a good defense. And in London, I think you give him grace here. Just good weapons around him. Hawkinson getting back to practice is going to be good for him as well. I think for Darnold, I wouldn't really be worried about it moving forward. Probably doesn't hang in the top 10 all year, but honestly, like if some guys fall out, like you get less good Burrow games, less good Baker games, it's possible he hangs around the top 10 more than I would give credit for. Pickens running 20 routes last week. Good stuff. Well, the issue is apparently like he wasn't putting enough effort in his 35, probably more like 30 routes. So it's not good. It's not good. I mean, I think we directly had talked about this, Adam, but I think when you talk about a guy who's like Pickens, who does work hard, does play hard, but wants to get fed the ball in a way that he thinks he's worth, you don't do that for him, he's not going to be happy, and they're not doing that for him. If they gave him 20 routes and gave him 10 targets on it, I think he'd probably be okay with it. But he's not trying hard. I think it's a bad scene for that team right now with Pickens, but that's Arthur Smith offenses for you. RBs, not standard scoring. We want the half PPR. So Kamara, Henry, talk about those guys. Saquon holding it at number 3 despite the bye week. I think his role continues to be fine. Would expect it to be a little more Miles Sanders-y moving forward when we get A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith back in week 6. Basically, Saquon, to me, the team blocks well. That's why he's doing well. He's been efficient when he's getting good holes. He's doing what he can with it. So I'm not mad at Saquon. I think the biggest issue for him, the biggest risk for him is Philly just going the wrong way. But a bye week hopefully gets him right more. Getting both guys back in at receiver probably gets him right more. I think Barkley probably gives you games like Derrick Henry where when they're front running, the game script fits him. He's going to do well. He's still going to probably fuck up on plays like when he dropped the pass that would have won him the game against the Bucks, I think that was, or no, whatever it was a couple weeks back. For Saquon, still never going to be a player I love, but the role is too good. That's basically it. All right. Kyron Williams at number 4. Kyron's workload's been good. Again, the Rams losing all the weapons has not affected Kyron too much. An half-point PPR. Feel like he's a more reliable pick than guys who I think people were a little more excited for in that range. Your A-Chans, obviously your McCaffreys, those guys were going to kind of that same spot on the board. Obviously, different rounds, but I think for Kyren, he's paying off pretty well. Still tough for me to feel like this Rams team can keep doing this. I feel like they're just kind of doing a shell game every week. They're doing some interesting stuff, though, where like they have guys like Jordan Whittington running motion, then running routes between the tackles, running through like the B gap. So I think what they had him doing. They're doing weird shit to just keep that team afloat. And that's going to be good for Kyren, but it just feels like it's flimsy every week. He's got such usage, but it's like really inefficient usage right now. But he's got like, 9 red zone touches a game. He's getting the ball a lot. He's doing well with it. I think there's still a floor here, but Corum getting in the mix is probably your biggest concern there. Jordan Mason at number 5. He comes down to earth. I think he's leading the NFL in missed tackles right now. So for Mason, not really worried about it. It's mostly the issue is that he's not a Christian McCaffrey PPR scam where he's getting those looks over and over again. It's one of the big difference between them where they start passing the ball more in the red zone. And that's the other part too, is like in the red zone, they're not just going, we're just going to run Jordan Mason up the middle, run him out wide, run him on some sweeps. They're not going to do the same things they do with McCaffrey with that, where it's just endless usage in the red zone. They just give him a little bit. If he doesn't get it in, he's done. If he does get it in, he's good. So pretty, variable play, but still one of the best roles in football with the usage. So Mason, no issues with it. McCaffrey could be back sooner than it seemed earlier on. So we'll see how that goes. I'm personally rooting for the Mason guys to come back down because I was not a Mason drafter. Didn't take most of the pure contingent value plays this year, but he's looked good. He probably keeps a little bit of a role, maybe a Braylon Allen kind of role behind CMC. I think it's okay for Mason right now with where he got him. James Cook, 17 points this week, has a ceiling of 28. I feel like for Cook, there should be better days, but you see the downside, the 5-point day. Ray Davis seems like he's getting more work lately, which would worry me a little bit because Ray Davis, I think, has juice in a different way than Cook. Cook's looked better this year, though, so I really can't critique Cook too much. I think it's more just Buffalo. Allen taking some work away, the pass game overall and what Allen is doing. Allen really had a dog shit game this past week, like one of the lowest catchable ball rates, I think, in the NFL this year. It's not looking great sometimes. They don't give the ball to Cook, so maybe they're relying on him more moving forward. Just, I don't know. It's tough to predict this Buffalo offense. They feel like a team that sometimes they look like world beaters, sometimes they look kind of like dog shit, and I think the truth is probably somewhere in the middle. So for James Cook right now, paying off a decent ADP, killing Isaiah Pacheco, who was a guy who's going to similar range at one point, then moved ahead. So James Cook's probably beating a lot of guys in that range, and that's what you want to see out of him. Really, all those guys like your Josh Jacobs your ATNs, he's beating a lot of guys in that range. So Cook is doing what you need him to do. It's just he's not creating distance really between anybody else, even a 0 RB kind of build. 24 Bills equals KC 23-0. Yeah, it's a comparison people will make a lot. And I think, what the KC discovered last year is leading up Pacheco's probably a good move. Maybe the Buffalo Bills realize that at some point. But I think when you lose Shakir especially, like I thought Curtis Samuel had a shot. I was building some lineups, like basically just a handful on the way back from the wedding on Sunday. And was building some lineups with Curtis Samuel and just trying to see if there was some way to make it work. And Stochastic Sims hated him. The ETR Sims hated him. Curtis Samuel, I thought, could step in and be, fractional Khalil Shakir. He's not. Shakir is just a better player right now. So they don't have Shakir. I think that offense looks less good, which is crazy because Shakir's not like a high target rate guy, but Kincaid's not that guy. He's not being used in a way that's that good. Though he did drop one pass that could have been a long touchdown. Besides, or I guess, didn't quite connect. I don't know if it was a drop. But I think there could be better days for Buffalo. It's hard, and I think the better days probably come with leaning on Cook more. Brian Robinson Jr., we've talked about a good amount of the workload, having Eckler there. It doesn't even matter with Eckler being there, really. Having another back there is going to be the tough part for Brian Robinson. Not a great score, because did he get 2 touchdowns this week, or was one of them called back? I feel like he got 2. Didn't he get 2? He can't have that low of a yardage output. Must have only been 1 touchdown. I got to believe. I'm looking it up again. No, he had 2 touchdowns. He had 7 carries for 18 yards and 2 touchdowns. No catches. So that's not good usage for Brian Robinson. You don't want to have to take 2 touchdowns to get you to 13.8 points. That said, Jamal Williams' role in this Washington offense, not bad. Brian Robinson was banged up, so maybe they kept the usage down a little bit, especially with that game getting out of hand fast. But Jerry McNichols looks fucking really good, and Eckler looks really good. So I worry a little bit about Robinson if he were to get hurt, if that knee were to flare up again, where he would end up. But yeah, he only had 2 touchdowns and nothing else. Like, he just didn't do anything. So that's not great for Brian Robinson, but in general, he's been about a 20 touch back. So a normal competitive game script where he's healthy, I think he'll be good. Obviously, he didn't push himself too hard last week, so he should be hopefully a little bit healthier heading into week 6. Not worried about Brian Robinson, but I'm like a little bit worried about just McNichols being that good, Eckler being that good. Those guys deserve as many touches as Robinson does. They just like Robinson more in the red zone, especially inside the 5-yard line. Chuba Hubbard, RB8, bit of a shocker here. The biggest beneficiary of Andy Dalton coming in. The proof of the Jonathan Brooks theory, if nothing else. Brooks, it feels like, should be close to getting out there at some point soon, which you expect it to hurt Chuba. Without Chuba's playing, though, he's going to keep a role. So actually could be a kind of a bad scene for both backs, but especially Brooks. Chuba's doing exactly what they wanted him to do. Early on, it felt like a lot of Miles Sanders involved, and as Dalton came in, it's all been Chuba, I think, because what he can do, kind of creating a check down option out of the pass game that Miles Sanders just doesn't do that well. So Chuba might be better than Brooks. It's a hot take. It's a hot take. He might be better than Brooks right now. The talent level is not as high. Brooks should be great out of the backfield, but Chuba's breaking some explosives. So I think he keeps a role no matter what. I don't think Brooks unseats him fully. Chuba, to me, probably one of the steals of the draft right now. And if I had to guess, I think he's got more staying power than Jordan Mason, assuming CMC comes back in next few weeks and is healthy. I think that Chuba can hang in a little bit easier than he can, which might be a bit of a shocker, but the CMC, the volume that comes away there, whereas like Chuba's a fulcrum of that offense right now and what's making it, work relatively. James Conner, I thought would be a little bit better, to be honest, based on just, the usage so far. Trey Benson not involved that much. Nobody else for Arizona involved that much. We're seeing a little bit of a bad floor with the 3-point game, 13 points you could live with. 0 RB player, though, I think he's hard to be mad at. If you have guys like him, Montgomery, obviously if you have Jordan Mason, great right now. But your Brian Robinsons, your Chuba, there's a lot of guys in that range that made sense with Conner. So he's probably a key part of what I'm doing. I'm happy to have him, and I think should be some better days, but how much of a better day, it's hard to tell. 25 ceiling, maybe. Wouldn't worry too much about B-Rob. DQ just said it was going to give him some rest for next week. This is Washington, dog stomp Cleveland. That sounds about right. Would check out with how I'd view it as well. But again, the knee thing still worried me. Like, he did drag that out until the end of the week. So could be something that reoccurs. A little bit of a concern point. Chuba could be good enough to timeshare Brooks more than we wanted. That's definitely going to be the case. I would say that right now it's like a 66 to 90% outcome. Like, I think that Brooks, he's going to come in. It's going to be a slow ramp up. You hope that as the year goes on, Brooks gets more of the high value touches and Chuba just gets explosives. I think would be the way that could work well for both guys potentially. But it's tough. Chuba's looked really good. I think eye test wise, he's looked pretty good too. Aaron Jones got hurt this week, so that's not good. Usage has been good for him. He looks so much better than Ty Chandler. I know there's a lot of Ty Chandler lovers out there. I took Ty Chandler just kind of because of what he represented in that backfield as a guy who theoretically had some work if Aaron Jones is in. Obviously, a lot more work when Jones gets out. He doesn't look good, though. And granted, not the easiest matchup against the Jets, though. Soft against the run this year have been the Jets, even though they're still as good against the pass game as they've ever been. For Aaron Jones, I like him. Him getting injured is what we worry about with him. But hopefully your 0 RB kind of builds can sustain him being out for a few weeks because could be out for a few weeks. Taylor out right now. Trey Sermon comes in and looks pretty much exactly like him, which is what I thought would happen last week. So Taylor, not a surprise there. You got Gibbs, Montgomery, both guys on bye this week, still hanging around the top 15. Getting them back would be a key part for me. Getting Montgomery back especially be a key part for me. Charbonnet coming down to earth exponentially because of Kenneth Walker. He gave you one spike week, I guess 1.5. You can't be mad at Charbonnet, but he's just not Walker. Walker's the lead back. That's basically it. And DeAndre Swift, a guy that I felt like I was on a fucking island alone defending for this year with what Chicago is, what Chicago was projected to be based on Vegas win totals. I thought Swift was a good pick all year. In the beginning of the year, again, one of those guys where everybody's like burying him, happy to throw the dirt on him right away. For Swift, I think he's living up to it so far. So obviously the last 2 weeks especially. And the one concern point is Roschon Johnson does come in and take some goal line work away. Khalil Herbert, though, dead. So all the people who wanted to fucking shit on me for saying Swift is going to be the play there, I don't think Herbert's anything. Maybe Herbert goes somewhere that, the outcome everybody wanted, that people wish casted. He goes to, probably not to Dallas now because Rico Dowdle's looking better. Maybe he goes somewhere where it matters. But Herbert's dead. Swift's the guy. And Roschon's the kind of guy, too. Roschon would be the Jamal Williams, I guess, in that setup. Had to defend so much Swift slander after the snap share in the preseason week 1. Yeah, look, people really wanted – it's so odd because Swift is a guy for me that I was never that high on. I was never like, oh, Swift, he's like this dude. When everybody was like barnstorming to take him in Detroit, barnstorming to take him in Philly, I just wasn't there with it. And now this year I was with it, and like immediately everybody jumped off the train, I guess, because of feeling like they've been burned by him in previous years. But this is probably the best role he's had. He's getting good screen work. The fact that Chicago's always trying to attack downfield, Caleb's eye is always downfield, keeps room for Swift to get open underneath and break some big plays. It's a really good setup for Swift. So icing Herbert is great news for him too. Not icing Roschon is kind of bad news. So I think there could still be some down games for Swift. But if he gives you what he was in Philly last year with maybe a little more ceiling, I don't think you should be mad at that. I think Swift has looked pretty good. But, first couple weeks were rough. I get it. But so was the entire offense. The entire offense is dog shit those first couple weeks. Jamar Chase, your number one receiver. Nico Collins at number 2. So receiver right now, not really pulling its weight. Again, we saw the overall there. Not a lot of these guys in the top 15. So Nico being out, going to drive him down, which sucks. I think going to create more opportunity for Diggs and Dell. I would guess in that order, though. Tank Dell just getting on the field more is a positive for him. Xavier Hutchinson, probably the direct backup if Nico misses multiple weeks. But going against the Patriots this week, you do expect Nico maybe to not play. They probably don't need him in that game. Hutchinson can play, but I don't think he has the rapport with CJ Stroud. He does pick up Nico's route tree, though. That could be huge for him. So all those guys benefit here. Nico going out sucks, though. He's been one of the best plays in that first 2 rounds. One of the best receivers overall in the first 2 rounds. Justin Jefferson at number 3. Jayden Reed at number 4. Neighbors at number 5, despite missing a week. So these guys all looking pretty good. I feel like the one I would expect to fall out would be Jayden Reed. Expect there to be some more volleying of spike weeks back and forth in that Green Bay offense, especially when Christian Watson gets healthy again. At some point, he's going to have some good games. So Jayden Reed, I think the usage, people want to defend Jayden Reed more than they probably should, but he's like a 20 to 24% target route run rate guy, which is okay, but we're looking really for that ceiling, 30% guys like Nico, guys like Jefferson, guys like Chase. So for Reed, I don't think he's quite in that tier. I don't think he's as good as Neighbors, but right now he's ahead of him. Neighbors, if I had to guess, would have iced him this week if he had played even fucking 1 quarter. Probably would have gotten ahead of Jayden Reed. Godwin playing well. Seems like we are finding the floor a little bit more, though. 2 games, under 10 fantasy points. A lot of the expected fantasy points people out there have pointed out that Chris Godwin's been exceeding it a little bit too much, so he probably finds his depth a little bit lower, and Mike Evans maybe comes up a little bit more. The third receiver there probably comes up a little bit more. The RB should come up a little bit more for Tampa Bay as well. Reed looks like the clear-cut dude there, but others will spike for sure. I don't know about clear-cut dude. A clear-cut dude to me is like getting targets on every drive repeatedly. You're looking for the guy on first downs. Dobbs at a certain point too, there's going to be a push-pull there to get him back in, get him happy and willing to go is probably going to make him somebody that gets targeted more. So I think there's going to be a push-pull for Reed. But look, he's going to have big spike weeks. I'm not going to dispute that. But the spike weeks trading off for, sub 10-point weeks, obviously the Malik Willis weeks, but even this one under 12, it's tough to trade those in. You got to have pretty good teams around him, and I think he's probably carrying a lot of teams with how he's played so far. Brian Thomas Jr., people out there saying he would be the top receiver off the board right now, I guess maybe behind Malik Neighbors, but still ahead of Marvin Harrison. I don't know if I agree with that. I think for Brian Thomas, though, the one that's a positive for him is it seems like his usage has moved Christian Kirk down the food chain a little bit. The issue for Brian Thomas is like he's getting a lot of targets downfield. If he doesn't break plays where he's clocked as the fast receiver in football as he was on the big touchdown he got this week, he's not going to get in the end zone quite as much, but he gets targeted well in the red zone. He gets targeted well downfield. The issue is really the overall volume of targets where he's probably not going to get to be a 10 target per game guy, but he's flashing really well early. He's advancing a lot of my big board teams. I got him a lot more there than I did in the main tournament, unfortunately, the main BBM. So for Brian Thomas Jr., I think he's playing well. He was a high EPA guy, high expected points added guy, so I expected him to be efficient. He's really the only bright spot of this Jaguars offense besides Tank Bigsby. So for Brian Thomas, I think you got to be happy with him, but I don't know if it holds up quite as good as it's looked the last 2 weeks. That's basically my concern overall with that offense. MHJ underwhelming based upon his unrealistically high expectations. I mean, look, we saw the ceiling for MHJ. It's just the separation was not there as much as Brian Thomas, but it shouldn't be a surprise with how these guys were in college as well, where MHJ would get open, would get separation on routes, but he wouldn't like beat guys downfield on a go. For Brian Thomas, that's what his game is. Like he'll cut between 2 safeties and get the ball just downfield in ways that I don't think MHJ can. But, being a guy that can reliably get you 10 targets at 9 yards a pop, and that's where MHJ has more value. So a guy still would go MHJ, but I certainly get the tantalizing ceiling of Thomas when you see him out there. And again, the efficiency and how he's just a freak athlete in a way that MHJ is clearly not. Mims worked out in Dallas this past week for what it's worth. What? Jordan Mims? Marvin Mims? Are the Broncos just letting Marvin Mims go out places? I don't know what you're talking about. Drake London here. Big games for him, or at least the biggest game he's had so far. In a game where Kirk throws for 500 yards, so a little bit of an outcome there. It's going to be hard to hit. But I think Drake London, to me, feels pretty good. Are you saying that he worked out in Dallas but not with the Cowboys? That seems odd. I don't know. I probably would read into that, especially after Tolbert has had a big game as wide receiver too. Like, he looked better than Cooks has looked probably in his entire Cowboys stint. So I think probably what you see is Tolbert's probably iced the wide receiver 2 role, wide receiver 3. I guess maybe if they wanted to trade for a Mims or something, I don't know. Drake London, though, feel good about his outcomes. Same thing for Mike Evans. We talked about Tampa Bay and offense looking good, Baker looking good and all that. Diggs at number 10 is kind of a surprise. But again, it does speak to how important consistency is at receiver, because no spike weeks for him at all. No games above 20 fantasy points, but just giving you mostly games around 10 to 19 is enough for him. A one down game here, but surprised to see Diggs top 10. But I think if Nico's out for, let's say, a month, I think Diggs probably ends up as a top 5 receiver for that stretch. So Diggs looking okay. Jennings tied for number 10. Used to just come down from pretty bad. Ayuk being good makes Jennings come down. Debo's still out there. Kittle's still out there. McCaffrey's going to be back out there. So you got your Juwan Jennings 41-point game. It probably made him worth a draft pick no matter what he does the rest of the year. And if one of those guys goes out, you have hope again. But unless they go out, Jennings just kind of buried, much like we thought he would be, much like we thought Pearsall would be. DK Metcalf at number 12. CeeDee Lamb, number 13. Feels like CeeDee's days have got to get better. Some tough matchups the last few weeks. Pittsburgh's never one you really want to see on the schedule. For CeeDee Lamb, I think the upside's there. It just feels like they kind of have to establish other guys a little bit more to get CD, the ability to get open as much as he needs to. He's also getting some rushes out of the backfield, which is not bad for him. CD getting into the top 10, I feel like is a certainty to me. For right now, though, you are seeing a lot more downs than I would have thought, with 2 games under 10, 1 game at 11. Really thought it would be more consistently in the 15 to 20 range no matter what. So I'm surprised to see it. Think it gets better, but Dallas has whiffs of like a team kind of falling apart. I don't know. It's weird because that game, it's like you see the best games for Tolbert, best game for Rico Dowdle, and it felt like the Cowboys were still like adrift with that. And I wasn't winning football, obviously. So for CeeDee Lamb, I don't know. I think it gets better, but I could be wrong about that. They do kind of stink. They're kind of like the shitty version of Buffalo and KC last year, but they have a star receiver and they have an RB. It looks okay. And like in Zeke too, I know people are like, oh, Zeke, whatever. Like, he still should have some value at some point this year. Like, he doesn't look bad when he's out there. He's just not as good as any, like, he's not good. he's not bad. I think he's like a Kareem Hunt adjacent player right now. But Dallas not getting better wouldn't be a shocker either. Darnell Mooney, number 15, Rashid Shaheed, number 15, or 14, 15 rather. So those are guys that are outperforming a little bit. Mooney, though, looking pretty good. Looking like a credible wide receiver, too. Shaheed looking like wide receiver 1, as we talked about earlier. So happy with those guys. Some outliers here, Alec Pierce. Alec Pierce being ahead of Marvin Harrison 5 weeks in would not have been a thing you would expect, but he's also ahead of Garrett Wilson. It's crazy it took Garrett Wilson 22 targets to give you 22.6 half PPR points, but look forward to that, guys. Your new PPR scam in the Jets. Last year was Breece Hall. Going to be Garrett Wilson moving forward. Dallas seems really fragile. They do. I still don't think they're dead. I just like they pass enough and they're willing to adjust enough to try to get better results as they did last year when the offense was like not working at all in the first month. So it can get better for him, but right now it doesn't look that good. I agree with that. I'm surprised at how bad it looks for CD in particular. Tight end 1 right now, our guy Brock Bowers. So our pal Adam, victory lapping in the chat. Brock, big game this past week, as I mentioned. Do expect him to kind of become the functional wide receiver 1 for Vegas as long as Devontae Adams isn't there. Apparently, though, trade offers for Adams not looking good enough for what they want. They want a second rounder and some other pick on top of that. Teams think that's too rich of a price tag, in addition to paying for his whole contract. So maybe Adams comes back. I guess could be the one thing there. Seems unlikely, though. If that's the case, Bowers is probably your tight end 1 this year, even though tight end's getting a little bit better overall. But Bowers having a lockdown role, the QB moving around, O'Connell being out there, maybe not great for him, but I don't think it matters that much. I think they scheme all around Bowers now. He's probably getting you a lot more screens, a lot more easy targets, a lot more quote-unquote easy button kind of targets. So Bowers, I think, finishes the year He's got the best shot right now finishing the year at tight end 1, as long as he can stay healthy. Kittle, number 2. Kittle's been more reliable than he's been at any point in his career so far. At a certain point, it pulls back to Debo, pulls back to CMC when he's back in, pulls back to Ayuk more reliably. But for right now, him giving you this many games around 15 feels pretty good. It's good enough for tight end 2. Tucker Kraft, I just don't get this. I don't get what's happening with Tucker Kraft. Not having Musgrave, getting more work for Kraft, I get it. It felt luck boxy for him to have the 2 scores this past week for Kraft. He wasn't on my radar this year. I thought that he was a worse player than Musgrave, maybe more reliable blocker, but not as explosive a weapon. He's being more explosive so far. So I don't know how you take him off the field for Musgrave. I think probably Musgrave takes some snaps away. Kraft's probably your tight end 1. It feels like production has to flow to the other receivers more at some point. So I don't think you expect reliable games like I would for Bowers necessarily moving forward. For Kraft, though, he's better than I thought he would be. I don't know. He was a blind spot for me. I thought Musgrave was the better play, and Musgrave just can't stay healthy, and Kraft is just reliable enough, and especially reliable too at like blocking, getting short throws, making something out of it, whereas Musgrave is just like deep targets, and if they hit, he's going to crush. If they don't hit, he's going to fail. A little more volatility in Musgrave's game that I think is going to make Kraft a more appealing player. Kelsey has to be a tight end 1 contender again. No. Yeah, he's in the hunt. He's in the hunt for sure. See what they do with the rest of that team. But I think Bowers, the point is like being in the hunt for it. It doesn't matter. But Bowers, Kelsey, Laporta's usage is not good enough right now to get there, but I still expect him to spike. McBride's usage is okay. He's not given a big ceiling. He's still in the hunt to me. I mean, really, I hate, I'm giving you guys that I would say would be my lead horses, but anybody could end up tight end 1 that wouldn't shock me this year, just how it's gone so far. Like Kittle could be tight end 1 with just these kind of games and a few 5s in there. And I think it wouldn't shock me either. Kelsey doesn't know what an end zone is. I don't know. I mean, that's going to get better for him, I think. But he has not gotten targeted as much in the red zone as he has historically. Likely at number 4, spikes again, not quite as much as one big game in week 1. This is what you're getting with a late tight end. You're probably not mad at it. Obviously, Kraft would feel a little bit better right now, but Likely and Charlie Kolar seem to be ahead of Mark Andrews in the pecking order. I think Andrews spikes a little bit moving forward. I think you see a little more of these Likely down games, but Likely when plays break down is the best player. He gets open, Lamar looks for him. So I think Likely has probably another 3 to 5 of these kind of 12 and a half or more games coming up. So that's basically it. Dallas Goedert, number 5, despite the bye week. Having A.J. Brown, having Devontae Smith back in there, I think he comes back down to earth. You see a lot more games like these 5s than you do the 22 with him. But hey, you got you one spike week game, a tight end, that's all you need. Kmet, thought Kmet would do better this week, to be honest. I felt like that was a game script where it could do well. Obviously, the Panthers didn't pull enough weight on that side to really keep that one full go. For Kmet overall, though, I think he's fine. I think he's fine in the weeks where the Chicago offense is really humming. Probably to give you a lot of these 2 to 8 point weeks. Not going to help you out the most, but compared to where he's getting drafted, compared to tight end overall, he's fine enough. Freiermuth, Ferguson. Would rather have Ferguson than Freiermuth. Freiermuth probably comes up a little bit if Russ starts, if I had to guess. Trey McBride, just feel like he should be better. He's not yet. Pitts, great usage for him, but again, it took a 500 passing yard day for Kirk Cousins to get there. Or for Kyle Pitts to get there with Kirk Cousins. So that's basically that. Kincaid, disappointing usage. His ADOT is so low. If he connects on the one pass, we're probably looking at his day differently, but Kincaid, a big disappointment. Brenton Strange, a steal right now. Evan Ingram's got to get back in next week, you would think. At this point, though, who knows? The hamstring for Ingram seems not good. Conklin, surprised to see him here. Probably gets a little bit better when Garrett Wilson's not getting 22 targets in a game. Zach Ertz, I feel like needs to just get benched for Sinnott and just see what fucking Sinnott can do because he's not contributing anything really. Feels like there's touchdown upside for him. We're not seeing it in a reliable way, so Ertz is there. Gesicki, again, Eric All taking a lot of work away. His floor is pretty well established. This is awful. This part of tight end is just really bad. Kelsey, I guess we don't have the score in from yesterday. But yeah, Kelsey, better than all these guys for sure. And Laporta all the way down here with this bye week. No games above 10 fantasy points for Laporta. I think if they're coming off a bye, probably your best shot of seeing good Laporta week if I had to guess. All right, guys, let's go to the BBM DB. Let's look at this stuff. Before we do that, if you appreciate this video, and really, if you appreciate this video in particular, you're going to enjoy this channel. So please subscribe down below, hit the like button, leave a comment. Of course, every day what I do here besides Wednesdays, I come on, I do the work. Mondays and Thursdays, I do Showdown. Tuesdays, I do this video here reviewing best ball, talking about the fantasy football outlook over the course of a year. Fridays, full main slate preview. And on Sunday AMs, back this week, my final takes video going through, talking about every stack, every sim lineup, and all of that. So please subscribe down below. We are so close to 4K subs. And look, I don't want to put the pressure on you guys, but my cat's dying wish. She said, "Yeah, please, 4K subs, yeah." So 4,000 subs, so close, guys. Please get me there before Neil Orfield does killing all the Showdown content. Subscribe, like button, all that. And Stochastic, support the show, 15% off at Stochastic. Link in the description there. Buy monthly packages if you can, because basically the way it works is I get affiliate money on their first 8 purchases there. So don't do weeklies because I get fucked if you do weekly. But monthly packages at Stochastic, support the show with that. And of course, Solver, Best Ball Overlay, great ways to support the show. All of them linked in the description down below. Underdog too. All right. Let's see. Before we do this one, actually, let me go over here. Underdog was not working before. Why won't this shit load? Here, so I'm just going to show you guys what the fuck is going on with Underdog. Why is it just sitting loading? So I can't show you my big board teams, which is what I was going to do. All right, here we go. Fuck. So weird. Okay. So we'll look at my BBMs in a moment, but let's look at my big board. So right now, we have 19 out of 62 advancing, which I think would put me above average in advance rate. A few of these look pretty fun, too, which is why I'm pulling these up. You have 19 teams advancing out of 62 drafts, 31% advance rate. So average for the big board is 25% because you basically have 3 people advancing in every pod. Some of the teams, though, that looked good for you, I have to look on my phone to get the point totals, so bear with me. Live big board. All right, so Stroud Baker, this one. So we got Stroud, Baker, Mayfield, Kamara, Pollard, Zamir White. Fuck you, Zamir White. Brian Robinson Jr., Jerome Ford, Charbonnet, Tank. So an absolutely loaded 0RB room here. I guess maybe Hero if you wanted to count that for Kamara. Amon-Ra, Nico. Sucks that Nico's out. Evans with Cup. We got Ridley here, Leggett, Noah Brown being out. Not great for the team. Tight end sucks. This team's doing pretty well with 691 points. So that's my highest point total team in the big board. Any other ones that really stand out here? Got a couple of 640s, some extreme 0RB ones here. All the ones with SP on it were the ones I drafted on stream. Oh, this one I drafted with Pete. See this one, why not? Burrow, Jayden, Bryce, Achane. Oof. That's a tough one. Brian Robinson, Gus Edwards. Really need Gus to do something at some point this year, but it's not looking good right now. Chuba, Rico, Keaton Mitchell, Tank Bigsby. So another pretty good RB room here, but with one dud. It seems to be the theme here, or at least one dud. Amon-Ra, T. Higgins, Amari Cooper, Deontay Johnson, A.D. Mitchell, Pearsall. Fucking Pete made me take Pearsall. Yoshevich, Luke McCaffrey, the team that we have at wide receiver. Tight end, Laporta Otten. Doesn't feel like a world beater. I thought that'd be a little more fun. Let's look at X0RB Delight. Again, this is the big board. We'll look at BBM in a moment. We got Caleb, Jayden, Raheem Mostert, B-Rob, Brooks, Ty Chandler, Marshawn Lloyd. Marshawn Lloyd, we need to get out there and doing something fast. That would really help out the portfolio. Estime, Dobbins, Justice Hill. So nailed the late picks here. Dobbins and Hill for free. Pretty good in the big board. Chase, Moore, Rashee Rice. That sucks. Keenan Allen, that also sucks. Though he's still healthy, thank God. Terry McLaurin, Brian Thomas, and Tez Walker. That's really tough. Bowers and Mayer. Obviously, the Bowers part really matters here. And Ertz giving us some points occasionally. So not bad. Nothing I'm like crazy in love with in these big board ones. I haven't looked at all of them that deeply, though. Let's go back to BBM DB. Open my team with 634. Oh, was that your team? Was that the team that we drafted? Hold on. 634, 78. Oh, it's not currently. I don't know where that is, unfortunately, because it's not currently caching. So can't see that one either. Gus is hurt too. Well, that sucks. This fucker, man. Gus really hit the wall in a way that hurt. All right, so my advance rate right now, I believe we're at rounded up 16%. Or not even a rounded up. 15.3 is where we're at right now. My best team has 674. Stroud, Darnold, Kamara, Aaron Jones, Tony Pollard, Charbonnet, Bucky, Keaton Mitchell just waiting for his chance again, and he's going to be the difference maker. He's going to take all that work away from Derrick Henry. But that looks like an okay RB room. Jones going out isn't great, but Pollard, Charbonnet, Kamara, Bucky, enough to make it up, hopefully. Jefferson, Nico, Neighbors, Tank, hopefully picking up some workload from Nico here. Pickens, I fucking hate that I got with the field on Pickens right now. I didn't like him as a player, but I got there because the price tag worked in some rooms. Wicks, 80 Mitchell, Hawkinson coming in to save the day, but likely keeping us afloat. And Theo Johnson's giving us points for this team, so that's not too bad. Here's when I drafted April 30th, so very early in the process. Jayden, Levis, Daniel Jones. Keep coming back to life to be epic. With how Justice Hill is playing, it looks less likely. Will Levis, Daniel Jones, Kyron Williams, James Conner, Jalen Warren, Chase Brown, Jerome Ford, Marshawn Lloyd. We got Jamar Chase here, of course, the spike weeks. I'm low on Jamar Chase. So that's going to be a big part here that's not helping me as much as other people out there. Malik Neighbors, Zay Flowers, Terry McLaurin, Ridley and Hopkins for cheaper because those guys are normally not tacked onto a 4-man receiver start. So I do like that. McCaffrey's got a roll. Tight end is dog shit right now with Chig and Sennett. But it does exist. That's an April 30th team. Here's my third best. Dak, Geno, James Cook, Montgomery. Need Montgomery coming back in. Him not playing this week on the bye week did not help me very much. Brian Robinson Jr., Chase Brown, Rico Dowdle. Really good RB room. I'm shocked that I've got this many good RB. I guess I shouldn't be, but I am. CeeDee Lamb, Neighbors, Metcalf, McLaurin, Keenan Allen. Tolbert's adding more points than Keenan Allen and Lockett. Bit of a shocker here. Paris Campbell for the Week 17 bring back, because this was earlier in the draft process. Musgrave looking dead. Fant looking dead. Juwan Johnson kind of back to life yesterday, and I think more back to life if Hainer starts. That's not the worst thing overall. Let's see. Let's keep going down here. Here's my best team that's not currently cashing. Jayden, Darnold, Daniel Jones, Brian Robinson Jr., Singletary, Gus Edwards, Ty Chandler, Bucky, Ray Davis, Drake London, Debo, Terry McLaurin, Jaden Reed, Jordan Addison, Wandale, Alec Pierce made this team, which is rare for me with no AR. Laporta and Kyle Pitts, so a double elite tight end. Enough decent RBs here. Need Singletary back in because Gus has added nothing. Chandler could have some spike weeks, though. Ray Davis, there's still hope. So don't hate this team too much. Go all the way down. The one thing I will say for my teams, I don't have a lot of 12th place teams. You can see I only have 4 here, so that makes me feel good. I've got a lot in the 3 to 5 range, as you can see from all these teams. So nothing really feeling too dead. But overall, obviously, we need some run good. I need Marshawn Lloyd. Need a lot more to get going. Pearson's 55 makes me vomit. Happy for you, though, obviously. Look, I said he was going to be the starter. That was one of my bets. I wish I'd made it more in hindsight. That's basically it. My worst team here, 190 points behind. AR and Derek Carr, Zamir White, Benson, yikes. Singletary, Zeke, Marshawn Lloyd, Bucky. Unfortunately, Bucky not doing enough to carry the team, even though he's added the second most points at RB. Puka Nacua killing me. My Puka teams are suffering the most. So actually, I should share this too. Show some players that are killing my advance rate. But Olave, Pittman, Worthy, JMO, DeMarcus Robinson, Hyatt, Wilson, 2 dead zeros right now. Hyatt maybe some hope in the next few weeks, but McBride, Musgrave, not great. So one thing I thought was interesting, just real fast too. So my advance rate with Marshawn Lloyd, obviously Marshawn Lloyd hasn't given us any points. Still 20% advance rate because he wasn't a key part of what I'm doing. So for me, Marshawn Lloyd hitting in the back half of the year, probably the most important thing for my portfolio, because if he hits, he's going to change the outcome of all these teams, and even the good teams going to make him better. The bad teams, or these not the bad teams, the middle of the pack teams, going to drive him up more. So I'm happy with that. For comparison's sake, how are my Bucky teams doing? So Bucky actually playing well, and I have him only 18% advancing. So that surprised me a little bit. My Jayden advance rate right now, 22% Jayden advancing. Not a surprise here. We'd love to clean up these ones in the middle, get these guys in. Advancing a bunch of Jayden would be my ideal because I have a lot of fun combos after what we saw last week from Atlanta. So I have 10 potential teams with Drake London. Obviously, none of them advancing right now, so that's not great. Of course, we're looking at the Week 17 correlations here. 10 potential teams for Darnell Mooney. 9 potential teams for Kyle Pitts. So I pretty evenly balanced out my Washington Atlanta bringbacks. And right now, as I've said a few times on these videos, 8 shares too of Ray McLeod. I think that Washington Atlanta is now looking more and more like the Nuts as this season goes on. So having that game lined up a little bit, I feel pretty happy about that. I don't think anything else I really have to show you guys. I probably none. And frankly, I'm not mad at that, but maybe 1 share. Yeah, 3 shares not advancing, but they're all in the middle of the pack, so they can get there too. All right, so let's do our industry watchdog here. Let's go. Former BBM champ Pat Kerrane. 3% advance rate for Pat Kerrane right now. Again, this is not, I'm going to say it, I should lead the segment with this every time we do it. It's not throwing shade at people. This is just, hey, who are the people who are in the space? Let's keep an eye on our peers. I know I'm lower than a good amount of people this week after the Jamar Chase spikes. Pat Kerrane, though, I don't know why it's going so bad for him. Lamar, Achane, a lot of Jalen Warren, Trey Benson. Really, a lot of zero RB stuff open at hits, I guess. Yeah, that's tough. These top teams are a little bit tough for Kerrane. But hey, you know what? You win one tournament, you can just fucking zero out forever and you're good to go. Our pal Pete, I think, has a better advance rate than me right now. Yeah, Pete at 16%, so a little bit higher than I am right now. His best team, 687. Geno, Carr, Aiden O'Connell, so that could look better soon. James Cook, Tony Pollard, Jerome Ford, Eckler, Mason, hitting at RB so far. Good 5 RB room until, well, Mason coming out is going to be a little bit tougher. CMC getting better. Jefferson, Nico, Metcalf, JSN, Brian Thomas, Shaheed. Wow. That is a sick top 6 receiver start for him. Losing Nico, not going to be great, but that Seattle stack looks good. And Shaheed, Kelsey and Bowers. So bully tight end-ish with Kelsey and Bowers. That's a fun Pete team. A lot of his best teams drafted later on. So that's Pete for you. There's like a Davis. Just checking streamers out. I appreciate the sentiment for you. If you're a paying member, I'll look your name up, but you're not. Sorry. I love you, Al, but no. 8% advance rate for Davis. His best team, 710. That's a gaudy, so high-end team for Davis. Joe Burrow, Will Levis, Derek Carr, Achane, Walker, Kamara, Ray Davis, Gibson. Again, the Ray Davis shares should look better. Achane hopefully gets better at some point, and 2 will be back in there. They'll help him out. Jefferson, DJ Moore, T. Higgins, Rashee Rice, Rashid Shaheed, Brandon Cooks, Darnell Mooney, Burks, Goddard, and Schultz. All right. I mean, good receiver room. Rashee Rice is a tough one, though. Rashee Rice teams I expect to come down a lot. Actually, just out of curiosity. Seems the Rashee Rice right now advancing 19%. And that's just going to creep down more and more. So, all right, that's the Rashee Rice outlook. Our pal Neil Orfield, we'll see where he's at. He was ahead of me the last time we did a video, but down to 11% for him. Top 400 team, though. This one would be good if they were still doing full season points. I say that not disparagingly, but that would be looking pretty good in that situation. Burrow, Herbert, Saquon, Kyron. So bimodal RB, Chuba, Eli Mitchell. That's tough. Estime not dead yet, though. Javonte having a resurgence is not good for him right now. Jamar Chase, Cooper, Jaden Reed, McConkey, Deontay Johnson, Shaheed, Burton not giving anything. Yoshivis giving a little. That's good. Goddard, Hawkinson coming back. It'll be good for Neil. All right. Team's doing well. Who else? Who else do I have to look up? And again, not just random guys in chat. I have no idea who that is. Let's see. Soccer Dave? I don't know Dave Kitchen that well. 3 out of 57 for Soccer Dave. All right. Yeah, this team is a team. This team, I mean, he's got some good players. Rashad White, Shipley not helping out too much. No, he's not doing well, though. But no, I'm not. I'll do it just to be mean to him. I did look it up out of curiosity. But again, not to glamorize him, but just because our draft stalker, 13% for him. Sucks to be him, but fuck him. Rough. Actually, let's look up the content creators first. Spike Week guys, sure. I'm sure Bime4 is doing well. Bime4. He was doing well before. 33% for Bime4. He is crushing right now. His best team. Jones and Darnold, B-Rob, Singletary, Chandler and Algier giving nothing. But he's got Chuba, Mason, Bigsby. Wow. That's a good room. Receivers healthy here with Jefferson, Neighbors. I mean, Neighbors not healthy yet, but should be soon. Evans, McLaurin, JSN, JMO, and Jalen Hyatt. McBride and Bowers, who's got double tight end. Wow, that's a nice little team. Nice little team for Bime for. All right. Good for him. Look, Bime for does the work. I know he gets shit on by the fucking Toxic Hoops channel on the Fox Kingdom Discord. He does good work. Hyatt has been doo-doo. Hyatt has been doo-doo. Shit my money is just shit my money, I think. So we can look up. Actually, let's look up Coakley real fast. Our guy Rob Coakley. Great guy. Crane was the first one we did, D. Owens. Hey, Coakley, 29%. So Spike Week right now. I mean, obviously it's week 5, but if they're going to put out some promo, Spike Week advancing at a higher rate than everybody else in the industry. With McCarthy too, but Cousins, Fields, Kamara, Swift, Javonte, Charbonnet, Chandler, Bigsby. Seems like Tank's the big unifying theme for these guys. Okay. Who else was the other one you guys? Oh, Fantasy Flock. He's Flock Fantasy, right? No, he's Fantasy Flock. God damn it. Fantasy Flock. Yeah, that's advanceweek.com. They're killing it right now. All right, 24% for him. Not a surprise, though, because he's a little bit of an RB piggy. No, this one, not Lamar, Burrow, Ramondre, Mostert, Chase Brown, Sharbs, McLaughlin, Tank Bigsby, Amon-Ra, Nico, Neighbors, Addison, Shakir, Burton, Bateman. That's a little bit tough down here. Kincaid, likely Gesicki. No worse tight end than anybody else out there. Hey, look, not bad teams for Fantasy Flop. Good for him. Hope he loses, though. Anybody else? I think we got Rough Buff Fire, who was a member. So right now if you're a paying member and you want me to look at your team exposure advance rate, we could do that. Of course, the website's BBMDB. Rough Buff Fire here. Our guy Joe. You're not Joe. There's different guys here. Sorry. Rough Buff Fire 672. Got Mahomes, Dak, Baker, Rashad White. Oof. Pollard, Dowdle. Rashad White not dead, but still oof. Jerome Ford, Chuba. Ford going the wrong way too, I think. The Foreman usage has been just killing his games just enough. And obviously Chubb going back in, going to make that worse. Still could spike, but it's a little bit tough. Lamb, Neighbors, Evans, Godwin, McMillan, Tolbert, Shark, Pierce, Ferguson, Jatavian. I don't remember his name. Is it a mean? This isn't it. I don't know what it is. Mean 1800? I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what it is, unfortunately. All right, let's go. Yeah, we can go to Drafters real fast. This will be our last stop here. Longer video than I wanted today. I don't know why. Like, I'm fucking not in the mood to do content, but got a long video going today. Let's go to Drafters real fast. All right. So we got Lamar, Cousins, Kyron for my best team right now. B-Rob, Jonathan Brooks, Ray Davis, Justice Hill, Estime. So the back part of my RB room is really giving me nothing right now, but Justice Hill's giving me a little bit. Giving me nothing. We're still doing okay here, just outside the top 1,000 with this one. Jamar Chase spiking, obviously going to be a big help. Drake London spiking in the same week. Zay Flowers, a good game. Shakir zeros. JMO bye. Tyler Boyd bye. Mooney spiking huge. So this team just really hit the nuts for this one particular week. Well, at receiver, not so much at RB. Al, I'm not checking your teams. If you're paying me money, I'll check your teams. I can't be more clear about this one. I got to make it so people pay for the channel. If everybody who watched every video paid for the channel, I could be comfortable doing this thing every fucking day. But I'm not doing it, Al. Stop trying to get freebies. It's $5 fucking bucks. You want to look at your team. Kyle Pitts, 15.8. There we go. My worst team, we'll look at that, and then we'll go look at the top team overall. My worst team right now is this. AR, Will Levis, Deshaun team, not a surprise. AR being out this week quietly hurt me a little bit more than it should have. I have AR and Hurts together more than I would have thought. So, hurt me and BBM appreciably to have a surprise bye week for AR, with him giving me no points. Taylor being out, not great for the teams. Hyjay being on bye, not great for the team. Ford, just not enough points. Ty Chandler, not enough points. Chubb coming back in, great. Justice Hill, not enough points. AJ Brown on bye, that hurts. Pittman, okay. Tank Dell, one of the worst picks at ADP right now for the record. Sutton, Hopkins. Hopkins has been kind of a bust too. Cook's out for a month now. Tillman, thank God for Alec Pierce. But this team is a last place team, wasting Alec Pierce's good efforts. BFFL. I mean, I don't really want to, Kyle, but if you want me to look at your fucking team, we can. I don't want it to be a thing, but it's going to make people pay, then sure. But the whole goal is you gotta pay. It's like the fucking calico cut pants. I think you should leave. Joe Burrow, Daniel Jones, Saquon. This is your top team right now in all of drafters. Devon Achane, so a bimodal RB start, your current top team. Kamara, still a lot of RB capital up top in this team because Kamara, if you'll remember on drafters, is going like the 50s. Chase Brown still makes the roster despite all that RB capital, which shows how it goes. Tyler Algier, Chuba Hubbard, Chase on this team. Hollywood Brown is going to hurt him a little bit to not have that. Jaden Reed, JSN, Mooney, good game. Wandale, good game at his price tag. Chark, Aguilar, Melton, Bowers, Freiermuth, Gesicki. There you go. That's the number one team. Doesn't really feel like a number one team, but I think it shows right now where the capital is going, where getting more RB early on, getting a tight end like Bowers to make up for elite tight end. That's basically what it is on drafters. Again, I got to be real that I find drafters a little bit less fun to hawk throughout the year. It'll be more fun to hawk in week 16 heading into week 17. There we go, guys. That's it for this week. Again, if you appreciate this channel, then please show some love here. Subscribe down below. Number one, join if you can, especially if you're a regular around here. That support does matter a lot for me as a sole proprietor. Did my mouse just die somehow? Okay, it did die. But we're okay now. Subscribe down below. There we go. Hit the like button. Leave a comment. Your engagements go a long way for me as sole proprietor here. Just showing my gambling, keeping myself honest, keeping you honest, whatever the case may be here. I do the work every day besides Wednesdays at 11 a.m. And, of course, Sundays at 9 a.m. as well here. So please subscribe. Get my content in your feed. And, of course, I'll be back on Thursday with our showdown video. Support our sponsors as well if you can. That goes a long way to support the show. Underdog, promo code SPLASH, $1,000 deposit match. Stochastic, 15% off, link description. All their tools and data. Get 15% off of that. They have no discounts going right now. So please check that out down below if you can. The Solver as well. Link in the description for that. Great tool if you want to have a little more control over your builds and then sim it out off of that. A lot of fun for showdowns too, I think, especially with how they do that approach. And that's basically all the plugs. Gamble responsibly. It's always money time. Follow me at Chris Spags. Follow the show at SplashPlayPod. Check the chats real fast. There we go. I'll be back tomorrow with more, guys. So, hey, enjoy your day. Or not back tomorrow. Sorry. Back on Thursday with more. Enjoy your days, guys. And again, please adopt a pet. And of course, good luck. Bye-bye.